Okay, this is Jeff Overturf with Alan Kelly from WTFradio.me. Just so everybody knows, Alan Kelly lives in Missouri, is that correct?
Yeah, about 30 miles north of Kansas City, Missouri.
And so what brought you down here this weekend? It was a bass fishing tournament, right?
This weekend I'm competing in the Bassmaster Opens event. This is the Central Opens. It's a qualifier for the Bassmaster Classic, basically, and for the Elite Tour. If you watch the bass fishing on ESPN every weekend, that's the Elite Tour. It's the top 100 guys in the world. You have to qualify to fish for that. And the Bassmaster Classic is, of course, the one that any serious bass fisherman has always dreamed of being involved in, And so the winner of this tournament gets a ticket to the Bassmaster Classic next year, fishing for $500,000, a $45,000 skeeter boat, and $10,000 in cash, and a lot of good bragging rights. So there's a lot of the top elite pros are fishing the Open Series too. So,
all right. Well, today, when I got out on this boat today, for everybody's information, for about a year or so, I've been asking Kelly. I do a lot of hunting and fishing, filming, an HD camera. I have all the equipment and stuff, and I've been bugging Alan about if he ever gets close to Dallas, let me know, and I can come meet him halfway. We can do some filming. So we did some today. So tell everybody a little bit about how you got into fishing, Alan, or when did that start, and what made you get real serious about it?
Well, I kind of kid around to people and say I've been fishing since I could walk. I might as well fish till I can't. So my dad had a fishing pole in my hand by the time I was probably 2 years old, and so I've always had a love for it. I grew up watching all the great fishing shows, Jerry McInnes and the Fishing Hole, and just watching Bill Dance and Roland Martin and all those guys, and it was something I was always intrigued with and always just had a passion for. And I started fishing tournaments in the 70s when I was in high school with my coaches and with my dad, and we talked about the goals that I set before, and so I had to wait about 30 years carrying a rod around, fishing every ditch and creek and mud hole I could find, without a boat, and just waiting for the opportunity. And once I finished my martial arts career as a school owner and a competitor, then I wanted to put my focus on this next set of goals. So I moved back to Oklahoma, I think it was 2004. With that in mind, my younger brother, I've got 4 younger brothers, but the one directly under me, Randy Kelly, he won the BFL All-American in 2001. That's one of the biggest prizes in the country, and he's been bass fishing for a long time competitively, and so I wanted to get my opportunity to jump in there. So I moved back to Oklahoma with that in mind, and kind of a funny story we were talking about a little bit. When I got back to Oklahoma, I didn't have a boat, I didn't hardly have any equipment, and I was just going to find a way to make it work. Well, they had a lot of team events where they have 2-man teams fish, and I lived on the water there at Fort Gibson Lake in Oklahoma, and so what I would do, I'd take my little 2 or 3 rods and reels and my little tackle box, and I would go down to the dock when they'd have these team events, and I would kind of stand around with my thumb out just in case somebody's partner didn't show up, and maybe I could hitch a ride and get my foot in the door. I had a guy that used to fish the FLW, and he was a friend of mine, and he was going to be my team partner that first year. Well, some different things happened with him, with his truck and some other finances, and he wasn't able to do it. So this was the only way I knew to get my foot in the door since I lost my partner. So I would go down there, and everybody would get a big laugh out of it, and I'd stand there, and they'd all take off, and I'd kind of hang my head and kick rocks back to the truck and go back up to my house, and I'd hear all the boats go by on the lake, and it'd make me real depressed. And then the next week they'd have another tournament, and I'd show up again, and after about 5 or 6 times like this, one of the ladies that was promoting one of the tournaments down there, they had a little breakfast at the docks down there where they have a little restaurant, and so everybody was sitting there having breakfast, getting ready to take off for the tournament, and she got up and she says, "All right, I need everybody's attention." She says, "You see this guy standing over here? He's been here 5 or 6 tournaments in a row. He's just trying to get a ride. He just wants to go fish. Could somebody please take this guy fishing?" And so all the guys, they're all a bunch of rednecks. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I'll get rid of my partner if he's any good. I'll trade him out, ha." And they all had a big laugh, and it was a big funny thing, but nobody would take me fishing. So they took off that morning, and I just couldn't bring myself to walk back up to the house and listen to those boats go by. So I kind of hung around the marina, and I drove down by the ramp and just trying to avoid being close to where it was, because I just didn't know what else to do. And here comes this white truck with an old Ranger boat, and it's one guy by himself. And I thought, hey, man, maybe this guy's partner didn't show up, so I'll go talk to him, introduce myself, and see if I can go with him. Well, it turned out to be a guy that him and his dad used to fish together, and his dad died of cancer, and that was his dad's boat. And he said, "No, I don't fish tournaments anymore. I'm just doing it for the fun of it, but you're welcome to come with me." And so I said, well, I'll pay our entry fees. I mean, they just took off 15 minutes ago. I'll pay our entry. He goes, no, let's just go out and have fun, and then we'll come back in when they weigh in, and we'll see if we could have beat them. Well, sure enough, that day we caught enough fish that we would have won that tournament. Now that guy has been my best friend for about 7 years, and we were team partners there in Oklahoma for a long time. But that's how I got on the water and got started. And then I got my first boat after that a few months later, and then I traded up to a better boat, and I just kept pounding it and risking and gambling on the entry fees and everything, and it started to pay off. But you know, it's just something, if you have a burning desire in your heart to do something, don't let anything stop you. You know, do whatever you have to do to get that accomplished. And, you know, when I would go down there with my thumb out and my little rig and everybody'd laugh at me and take off, my wife, Kathy, she would tell me back then when I was going through that process, she says, just keep doing it. She said, just keep going down there. She goes, because in a few years, these guys are going to remember you. They're going to see you on ESPN. They're going to see you holding up that trophy, winning one of their tournaments, and they're going to say, I remember that guy. I remember when he was standing down there with his thumb out with nothing at all, and look at him now. And 7 years later, I'm fishing for a chance to go to the Classic next year.